Hello. Okay, great then. Good. So let's start then. So before we start, let's give you a little introduction where I am. I am Riazuddin Kawsar. I'm working as a team leader in a company called Special Business Integration. At the same time, I'm also doing my pursuing a PhD in Technical University of Darmstadt. It's something about design. So today we are going to talk about this is the topic: the succeeding in a job interview, main advice and methodology. Before I start, if I speak so fast, that means I'm excited. So please keep it down. Just write something in the terminal. I'll be aware about that. And if I'm looking somewhere else, that means I am looking for some documentations, what I wrote about all over my table. So don't worry about it. I'm on there. So before we go more detail in the interview part, let's talk about why it's an interview and why it's important for both parties. An interview is to just to judge that the person who is going to recruit or the team who are going to recruit somebody, they want to know how well an interview fits with their company. This is why they take the interview. And for people who are attending the interview for a job, for them it's an important part of course to get good at a job. And stakeholder of an interview, there are several parts of this interview, people who are involved in different stages. Interview can be different types. For an example, it can be a telephone interview, or it can be face-to-face interview, it can be one-to-one, or it can be one-to-many. So there can be a team of people who are taking this interview. So it's all about interest, about the stakeholders, how they behave and how they take part and what's their role in different ways. And now, what do you think? I mean, who are planning to approach an interview, what they think about the interview? For me, when I want to an interview, of course, I want to get a job. That's why I go there. Or so one of my main target used to be, okay, I want to give them what they want, and it's about what they think. That means the people who are in this board, who are taking this interview, or who are conducting or coordinating this interview, what they think about you. It's also very important. So through along the presentation, I'm also going to talk about what the people who are going to recruit their things. Yes, it's a step before about taking preparation of an interview. So one of the very important thing what you should think about always, you should be honest about your CV, what you write in your CV, because that's the one medium how the people communicate with any company or with people who is going to be in the board. So they are going to read it very well. So it's very important that you want to be very honest in your CV. And there is also another important point is to make sure the online presence. For example, I was talking about with one of my friends who also recruit people. So one day he received an CV and he liked that person, so he forwarded it to his boss. So this is one guy we like. So what his boss do usually, because he don't have time to read 2 or 3 pages. So he Googled simply. So he Googled and he found his Facebook profile. And in the Facebook profile, they put a cover picture, like a very messy or unorganized room picture. For fun, people provide this sort of picture. So his boss said, I'm not gonna call him for the interview. And this person asked why. He said this person's lies. He said in his CV that he's very well organized, but his picture says he's not. So he lies. So I'm not going to take any interview of that person. So this is important that there should be an online presence, but this is also important that the information that you share with other people. And there is some another states that before somebody goes to interview, they should know about the process, how it will be handled. For an example, you can write an email to those people that asking the questions like, what sort of questions, what kind of interview it will be, the length of the interview, the participants of the interview, or you also may ask, do they want you to bring something with you? Like for an example, they might ask you, please bring a portfolio of you. You also can keep some CV with you. If it's a big interview board, like 5, 6 people are dealing or taking the interview, then they're gonna ask these sort of questions. Okay, if you have your extra CV with you, so you can forward it to them. So these sort of things, when you start, that means you started getting involved in this process. So this will make you a little bit more confident about the situation. The next steps, a very, very, very important steps is to research about the company. For an example, what this company does, what are their products, and what could be their customer, who are their customers, what sorts of business they are interested in, what could be, what are the new users. So for an example, every company, usually, most of the companies run a blog or they have a news section. So where they write about the upcoming news, like for an example, what are the new products they're going to bring in the market, or what sort of technology or new services they're going to provide in future. This sort of information, as much information as you can collect about this company. And internet is of course a great source of information. After you research, there is another tips I'll provide that it's very helpful and it always helped me out is to go through the last few months of emails. Like for an example, you may subscribe to some blog or some company, or you're following some company, or there are some other development institutions who do this sort of work. So they always provide lots of emails to you. So you don't read all of these emails, you store it. So one good idea could be go through this email and have a look in those emails, and that will provide you some more extra information that you can collect and provide them in this interview to these people. So this is another important step is to go through the last email. Okay. Um, I want to share a little bit about my background again. So I studied urban planning. So I didn't know when I started studying what is urban planning. But I had one wish that I want to study in a public university, and that was the only courses I got admission. That's why I studied urban planning. And later on, after I became a graduate, I started working in a company. And after the work, I used to hang out with my friends and in the evening. So one day, one of my friends said, "Okay, we're going to take a master's program. It's an evening course. It's about development studies. So let's go." I said, "Why I want to do that?" He said, "We can hang out together in the evening." And of course, there is another option that three, if three students go together, then they get a 25% reduction in the costs. That was my motivation why I studied development studies. And later on, after 1.5 years, I feel like, okay, I'm bored about this job, so I want to change it. So one of the good way was just to apply for a scholarship. So I applied. I was desperate about it, so I applied several scholarships, and I get a few. And when the time came, okay, which scholarship I want to choose, my criteria was, okay, Erasmus Mundus is like fun. There are a lot of countries I can visit, plus they are paying good amount of money. And that's how I chose geospatial technology. So it doesn't make any sense that why I started this program. So in the interview board, they asked me, last year today, I was in an interview. I was applied for a job, so they asked me. So in that interview, they asked me, what are you planning to do with your life? You started urban planning out of nowhere. You started development studies. And then you started studying technology. What do you wanted to do? I had a perfect answer for them. I said, uh, urban planning is an interdisciplinary course. So I had a very brief background about different subjects and different courses, different sectors. And later on, I was very much motivated to work in development sector. So I studied a master's of development studies. And when I studied development studies, I figured out there is very big gap about technology. So there are not too many people working with technology in the development studies here. So I was motivated to study technology. That's why I came to this master's program. And out of all of my education, at the end, I gave a link. Okay, so after I studied development studies, after I studied geospatial technology, later on I did my master's research, which is about climate change and armed conflict. And of course, this is a development issue. And out of this technology, like for example, spatial temporal modeling, I try to attend this development sector with technology. So they found this answer very interesting. So it's all about selling yourself. You did a lot of things, but this is very important how you're going to present it to them, how you want to sell it to them, how you want to sell yourself. And so you did a lot of things in your life. You studied a lot of things, you worked a lot of stuff. You always have to choose the interesting part. I mean, you don't want to make them bored. So you always provide information which is interesting for them. And of course, which makes sense for them, which is relevant for them. And this is the basic rule. If you don't think that what you do is interesting, you actually cannot provide these information to others. And you cannot believe or expect that others believe that what you do is interesting. So believe what you do is very interesting. Um, Before an interview, it's very important that you prepare yourself for an interview. And there is a lot of people say, and I also agree about it, that practice can make a world of difference. It's true. So before you go for an interview, you should take preparation of some obvious questions. Like, for an example, this is a very usual question they're asking the interviewer. Can you please tell me about a little bit about yourself? What is your strength? What is your weaknesses? Why you want to work with us? So these sort of obvious questions, you should have these answers for. Of course, you don't want to tell them that you memorize these answers and you are providing these information to them. But if you practice yourself before the interview board, you will feel so relaxed and you're just telling themselves in such a way that you are doing it every day. So you're very good at it. So this is very important that you take proper preparation before you go for an interview. There are several sort of interview, and several sort of interview requires for several interested people. For an example, if we talk about an interview in the PhD, of course, this is research oriented. So they want to know how deep is your knowledge in a particular sector you're interested in. If you are going to give an interview in a research organizations, of course, they want to know about your research skills. If you want to, if you went to an interview of an corporate sectors, of course, they always look for what is your organizational behaviors, how good you are in the management practice, and so on and so forth. But in all kind of presentations, there is a common thing that is a behavioral test or behavioral based interview questions. For the philosophy behind it is they want to know what you did before And based on that, they want to predict their future, that what we want to, what we can do for them. So they are going to ask you, please provide me an example for an work that you worked in a team, and how did you do with this sort of jobs? Then you always answer in such a way that provide information about situation. So we explain a little bit about the background of the tasks. And then you explain what are the actions your team has taken. And of course, you also want to mention specifically what you did in that project. And then you tell them the result. So they call it a STAR technique of replying to any particular sort of questions. For an example, there could be a question they ask, okay, how did you manage a project? Then you tell that, okay, so there was a task that we were supposed to increase the sale of a company, blah, blah, blah. So this was your situation. And your task was, your particular task, you were assigned to a particular task to do a market research, like how the other companies do. So you provide information what you do. And then you tell them, okay, there are several kind of companies. They were dealing the same problem in different way, but I find it very interesting and I find it very fit for the situation. So you suggested or you proposed a situation to them, and then result you can tell, okay, by taking this sort of actions, we were increased our sale by 15%. So you give them a solid outcome, what happened, or what you did, or what you can do. In the interview board who are sitting there, of course, they have read your CV. They read your CV very well and they know about you very well. What you want to do is provide good examples to prove that what you wrote in your CV it makes complete sense. So this could be a good technique to answer this sort of behavioral questions. Uh, this is very true that the impression you're going to provide to somebody, the first impression is the lasting impression. Um, if they find somebody is very interesting at the beginning, of course. Say you provide a very interesting example at the very beginning. That means you are holding the whole board to listen to you. So you make them listen what you are saying. So this is very important that how you provide the first impression, how you provide the information that it's gonna take care for the next 1.5 hours or 30 minutes or whatever the length of the interview duration is. Usually the very first question is like after a little bit of chit chat, what they're going to ask, could you please tell me a little bit about yourself? So there would be a bunch of information you can provide. In which city you born, what you did, what you like, what is your hobby, what you like to eat, or whatever. You can tell anything. But by these questions, actually what they want to know is, did you read the circular very well? If you read it, did you understand it? If you understand it, can you realize what are the techniques or what are the qualities they are asking for? So they are expecting that you will tell something to them what will help them to decide actually how good you are for the position. So for an example, there is a skeleton you can see in the slide that you tell them a little bit about their education. So when you are talking about education, you also can provide information like, in my bachelor program, I found X course is very interesting. And out of that motivation, I started my master's, the Y program I found very interesting. And then I started doing a job and I found this part of the job is very interesting. And out of all of this, you can summarize your skills by examples. And of course, you are providing them information, the course information, the interest information, the skill information to them, what they mentioned in their CV or what they mentioned in the circular. So at the very beginning, they have a very good impression about, okay, so this is the person maybe we are looking for. So you also can give them the next question they want to ask. So for an example, you told yourself about you and you told about your research, and there is a very higher probability the next question will be where you are going to finish. You said my research is that, and then they will start asking you, tell me a little bit about your research. That means you also can drive the interview. What should be the next question? So it's a good, if you're very confident about something, finish your answer with that. That can lead you to the next question. And this is a very generalized tip that you should consume less amount of time. So it should be brief, concise, relevant, and assertive. So you also provide the information that you are interested for this job because your background supports you. And I would suggest not to spend more than 2 to 3 minutes for this sort of questions. And then please reread your CV several times before you go for an interview, because you should know very well what you wrote in your CV. So you don't want to conflict anything with your CV and what you are telling them. So it's a very good idea that you reread your CV before you go for an interview. And of course, this is a general thing that if you should know yourself very good about you. If you went to an interview, actually think if you really want that job, if you really are is interested to do something that they are asking for. So if it's this sort of work interests you, find yourself by before you go do that. If you do that, then you are confident. And if you are confident, of course, what you are going to tell, they are going to believe you because you are confidently answering the questions. And this is um, there are some questions when in the interview board they always ask. For an example, they ask you, could you please explain what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses, and this sort of questions. This sort of questions is not they're asking you that they are they want to really know what your weakness is, or they also want to know what is you very good at it. So these sort of questions they impose some stress situation. Like they want to see how you deal with this stress situation, how good you are in dealing in this sort of situation. So this is very important that you interpret the questions in correct way or the right way. If you can interpret these questions very efficiently, then you know what really they want to hear with these questions. For an example, um, I already mentioned that if they are asking, please tell us about you, that means they want to know how good you are, how well you understood their circular. And do you really believe that you're fit for this position? They want to hear this from you. And they might also ask you why you chose the company. And then out of these questions, what they really want to hear is they want to know that you did your research very well about the company and you know about their service, you know about their products very well, you know about their recent developments, and what they also want to hear from you is about that you know these things and you can keep pace with the development, and you also believe in the developments, of course. If they are asking you the questions about the weaknesses, what they really want to know that what is the risk they are going to take by hiring you. For an example, you might have some weaknesses, and how bad your weakness is. Is it correctable? If it is, what is your feeling about it? So you really can give a positive answer out of this negative question. For an example, you can say, okay, I'm not very good with technology. This is why I'm taking courses about technology. I'm attending seminar. So I'm trying to overcome my weaknesses as well. So you are giving the message that you are aware about your weakness and you are working on them to take care of these things or to minimize your weaknesses. So a negative answer really can bring some positive things. So this could be a way to take care of these stress questions. if they ask you, okay, what is your strength? So the key answer they really want to hear about is that you know about the circular, you know about the quality they are looking for, and you are mentioning and picking up the right strength which is written in the circular. So they really want to hear about this, what they wrote in the circular, and with some, of course, with some proper example. So you are saying that, okay, I am very good in managing people. And then you also, so this is my strength, and you provide an example. So in my previous job, I used to work in a team where 20 people used to work with me. So I used to manage them. So you are providing also some information that fits with their interests, with examples, of course. And of course, this is a very silly question everybody asks all the time. I don't know why they ask, but the philosophy behind the question is, where you want to see yourself after 5 years, or where you will be after 5 years. This sort of questions they always ask at the end of this interviews. What they really want to hear is, for example, if you did your homework, so if you know what is the prerequisite of that job, and if you know after the job, where is the potential scopes that you can derive yourself, only then you can answer this question very confidently. So for an example, you can tell them, right now um, I'm working with technology in the grounds, for an example, if they ask me. And if I am in a technology-oriented company, going to work, and then I would say, okay, so I started working as a technology expert at the very ground level. And later on, I want to work as a manager, or I'm going to work in a team where I'm going to manage people from different sectors who work with technology. So this sort of, and of course, in these sort of questions, you never say, okay, I want to see myself in 2 years as a manager or in 10 years in manager. So you always keep the time frame flexible. So they don't find you rude, or they don't find you ambitious, or they don't find you less ambitious. So always it has to be in a middle position where people can stretch their answer in any way. Okay. Um, okay, I see here is a question. Let's answer these questions after we finish our, okay? That's a nice question though. So there are questions that they are asking. So for an example, it could be uh, okay. Let's share this example. What happened with me just 1 year ago today. So last year in 2013, I went for the interview, like now where I'm working. So don't, you'll never believe me. It was a 5 hour interview. So there were too many questions. This question, that question. I think they asked everything they could ask. But in all these questions, um, what they wanted to judge me in several ways. For an example, they judged me how good I have the knowledge in the sector I'm going to work. And they asked me how good, they judged me, how do I fit in their team. So they have a very compact and compatible team. For an example, in their hierarchy, there is 12 or 13 people working. So there are people who don't like weak people, or there are people who don't like who is not passionate, or who is not motivated, or who is not friendly enough, or who is boring. So there are a lot of things they want to be very sure about when they are going to welcome you on board, because they don't want to have a mm, unhealthy environment. So they want to judge you if they fit with their environment. So if they are asking these questions, then of course this is the thing they want to know. So in all these questions, the message you want to provide them, that you are the best, and of course you are very good, in dealing people or being with people. So you're creative. So you always have some new ideas about tasks. So, okay, there is a problem. Okay, we can how we can solve the problem. So you always have this creative idea, and you always provide them a positive attitude about your motivation. So of course, you link everything what you did in before, and that is going to tell that you are very motivated. You are not going to tell them, oh, okay, I'm very motivated with this job. Rather, you are going to give them examples from your past that explains that you are extremely motivated and passionate. They also ask me why I'm passionate about technology. So the day before I went to the interview, I wrote a blog. I write a blog, so I wrote a simple thing about the newest and recent news of technology. So when they asked me, so I referred, just a few days back I wrote a blog, and there I mentioned about the new technology in this sector X and Y. So there is an example that I am telling them that I am aware about this recent development and I'm going to take care of this. So that expresses my passion about it. So for an example, if you're going to work, if you're going to a job which is trying to recruit people in the marketing sector, so you have some proof. It can be your class projects, it can be a little talk you had, it can be a seminar, whatever, that explains your passion about marketing. Commitment. This is the most important thing I think I look for people. So currently I also recruit people in my company. So when I am recruiting people, this is the most important thing I look for, the commitment. I want to know that I can depend on the person that I recruited. If I cannot depend, I cannot be, I cannot have a healthy environment. So this is very important that people can depend on you, and that's dependency can be explained only through commitment. Because in one interview, they cannot take a test of you that you do everything. So that's why they want to have some signals that they can depend on you. And that explains from your commitment point of view. So when you are giving the answers, you provide this sort of information that you are committed. And if it is a big company, this is very important that you have organizational behaviors. That means you know the hierarchy of the company, you know how to attend a person, Mr. or Mrs. this and that and blah, blah. So this sort of organizational behavior is very important for a big company. And of course, management style. How do you manage a project? How do you manage the situations? Beside this, beside, you need a lot of things. If it is a 2 hours interview, they will ask you everything. So they will also want to know about that you have um, very good habit about listening. Because say I am going to ask my colleague, could you please do this for me? So before I finish my sentence, he said, oh, okay, I understood. Okay, I can do that. It's not a big deal. So that means, so what I would do if anybody do this with me in my professional environment, then I say, thank you. So please provide me within 2 hours. I know that that person didn't listen to me very well. So he listened half of my requirements, but other half he didn't. So that person bring the task to me. So I say, okay, sorry, this is incomplete. I need something more. So this is a very good quality that people possess, that they listen to people. So this is very important. And you always good smile. You have a good smile, so they don't think that you are boring. So smile is a very good thing that radiates energy, that transmits energy to other people. So you should smile. That's a general tip. And knowledge, of course. If I need a person, need a programmer, I'm not going to hire somebody from marketing, of course. So you know better than me if you apply for a job that they are looking for. So knowledge is, of course, very important. Be very clear. What is your role? What you are going to do? Don't be confused, and don't give any answer which confuse them. So this is very important that you are very clear and about your target. So you deal with this very in a very clear way. And confidence and dependence. Of course, I will mentioned it of course before. Yes, be very confident, extremely confident that you can do anything within any manner. Um, in this 30-minute presentation, I cannot cover a lot of things, but I try to provide you the messages you might be interested in after if you go for an interview. So if I wrap it up, this is the um, what can I say? This is everything in one compared in a zip file. So first, you know yourself that will make you confident. Do the research about the company you're going to make an interview with, as you can answer to their questions or you can predict their questions as well. Knowledge. So do a little bit of study what topics you are going to deal this interview with. So if it is about climate, please at least know the definition what is climate. And as I mentioned before, first impression is very important. And then you can also ask, what is the unique quality of this company that attracts customers? So you always ask very qualitative questions. So this is a very interesting part as well. And that's all. Good luck. So if you have any questions, please write on this little terminal. I will try to answer. And of course, I can also provide you my contact information. If you are going to an interview and if you need some confidence, if I really can help, okay, I will communicate. So here is my email address. And please, I request you in the subject of the email, please refer EMA or something, because there are a lot of emails. I might reply very late. So somebody sent me an email and I replied 1 week later. So if I see the topic that EMA or conference or something, it triggers me, then I will reply very soon. Okay, please, if you have any questions. Okay, I already remember one question real fast. If they ask, what should you reply if they ask you about your weakness? Of course, people have a lot of weaknesses. I also have a lot of weaknesses. But you take care of these questions technically, as I mentioned. Say you read a job circular and you see what is the most important part. You are never going to mention that to your weakness. But you can tell, okay, I never worked in a big team of 20 people. I believe in this work, I'm going to work with 20 or 30 people. So previously, I don't have enough experience to work with a big team, but I am taking seminars how to work in a team, and I think I'm doing good. So you can answer something which is not very important, but that also show your honesty, that you are honest. And that also tells that you are aware about your weaknesses and you are taking care of it. Hope that does answers your question though. Okay, this is a very tricky part. If they ask about salary, and this is also very important, of course, if you're going to work, this is a very interesting part and important part. If they don't pay me salary, I don't work. Of course, they will ask you about your salary expectation. So before you go for an interview, please do a research. What is the average salary of that sort of positions in that country? And make a plus of 20% because there will be a negotiation. So for an example, they are looking for an expert and you have 5 years of experience. So you saw in that X country The expert salary is 70,000 euro every year. And they are looking for 3 year experience, but you have 2 year more. So you add 20% more on the salary, but you don't go too beyond. And you, when you are replying to the salary, you are smiling a little bit. That means it's negotiable. Any more questions? Okay. For recent graduates, so currently, just a month ago, we recruited some new graduates, and they didn't have job experience as well. But the way they can present themselves, for an example, recently, currently, I have, you can tell something like this. I'm just providing an example what you can tell and what could be your motivation. So recently, I finished my graduate program, and in that program, I found these, and these topics very interesting. And I did a master's research on this. And you can mention your class projects. So, like in each courses, you have some projects you are dealing with, and do it correctly. Make some portfolio of this, so you can tell I have an academic practical experience. This is very important because if I'm going to recruit a fresher, I know they don't have a job experience, but I want to know if they can deal the situation. Maybe it will not be very professional, but that helps me. So I'm expecting somebody to answer what they did in their class project. So this could be a way out, that you are replying in such a manner that you are giving them examples what you did in the class program. Because these are in master's level. This is most of the program have a lot of projects, so you can bring them up. You also can tag in your CV at the end as an annexure what are the projects you did. That also helps the person who is taking the interview to know about you more, and they know about your experiences. So I think in that way you can handle these fresh graduates can handle the situation. And experience also can be a volunteer one. Say you can before you say for an example you will start looking for jobs in September. I would suggest before 3 months start writing some blog, like professional blog. So there are millions of blog currently. So you send an email to somebody, can I write in your blog? Of course, they would be interested. So you write about professional things, and that you also can mention in the interview. So I write a blog. So because I didn't have any, I currently I'm finishing my master's, but to keep me in a professional track, I started doing this blog, and this is an informative blog. And in your CV, if you write, okay, I have volunteer experience, I'm an editor, I'm a blogger, and you provide them this blog link. And the person who is reading your CV, of course, they will go to the blog and read what you write there. So I think that could be a very good option to provide extra information to those people. Okay. I would say Google is my best friend. So if I want some information, of course, I simply just write Google it. So you can start look for jobs in Google. Not any, I don't look for jobs in any job site. Rather, what I do is in the double quotation. So you are looking for something specific. So you are writing agronomist with double quotation. You write date. So like now this is March. So March 2014 search. And you also provide some more keywords like job circular or something like this. I think you will find thousands of links. And there are some very popular job sites. If somebody is interested, DevNet, and there is another job. Actually, I'm out of this market for 1 year, so I cannot provide a very good information about where to look for a job. But I'm sure if you Google it, you'll find it. Yes. Um, I can share my experience about this job I'm doing currently. So I was desperate about finding a job. So what I used to do every day morning, I used to wake up at 9. So 10 to 11, I look for a job, Google the job, and then I start writing the motivation for 1 hour. So my target was I will apply for a job 1 month, and every day I will apply at least one job. That was my target. So every day I used to work 6 hours finding a job. That was my job at that time. So this is one way that if you are motivated, you do it. But the job I am doing currently, this is not the job I found. Someday I received an email from some ex-guy that telling, oh, okay, there is a position open in our company. If you are interested, you can apply. And of course, they mentioned they found me in the LinkedIn. The LinkedIn is a very important part if you are looking for a job. Say somebody, why LinkedIn is also very important, not only because of people are finding you, but also because say you applied for a job. So in our company, we have very efficient algorithm and scripts. So we don't read the CVs. So when the CVs comes in, we throw out the script and we count the frequency of the word we are looking for. And by this way, we sort. So if we receive 300 applications, we screen 50 and we throw out 250 applications. I am quite sure out of those, there are a lot of potential candidates, but they are just gone away because they doesn't fit or they didn't write the correct thing. This is number one. Number two, how this LinkedIn comes in. That's what I'm going to answer. So if I receive the CV first, I don't want to read 10 or 12 font 3 page. What I simply do is I Google that person. And if I Google somebody, the first thing that comes on is LinkedIn or Facebook or some other social network. So if I found a LinkedIn, so it's more comfortable for me to read in LinkedIn than in CV because I have this flexibility to make a control F, find command and find okay, where are the words I'm looking for and what are the relevant experiences. So I would say LinkedIn is a very, very, very important tool if you're hunting jobs. Okay, internship. I think everybody is looking for internship. Currently in our company, there is 3 persons working as an internship. We pay a little amount, but we pay. So the good thing about internship is, say if I want to hire somebody under some contract, so okay, you have a contract for a permanent contract, or 3 years contract, or 5 years contract. I want to be very sure that this person fits with our company. And to do that, what we do is we look for people who are interested in internship. So they do master's research, they do graduate research under the framework of internship in our company. And by these 6 months, we know the person very well. We know the capacity. We know his weaknesses. So this is very comfortable way to deal or recruit people. Okay, 5 minutes more. Okay, what is the question? Okay. Um, if you are looking for a job, okay, okay, still your question is not finished. Uh, 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 Okay. Of course, your Facebook is a private profile. It's for your friends. But this is also for some people, the people who recruit, these are big guys, like the manager of the company, the um, um, the head of the department. So you have to think their age is about 50 to 60. So they are not from this generation. And this is my understanding, my personal opinion. Okay? So they are not from our generation, like who are the people currently. So they don't like this thing, Facebook, very much, first of all. And second of all, you have this idea, okay, you provide these pictures to have fun with your friends because it's for friends, it's a social network. But these big people will say this is a social network. So how this person present themselves in a social network, it's gonna affect my company. Because people will know if I recruit that person who is a very messy, and other people who will be in this network, they will look this person and decide and draw some conclusion about our company. So there are some part of these people who really don't want to take this risk. So if you are really hunting jobs, I would suggest make your profile pictures and everything very private, as no other person can Google you and find you these things. That would be my suggestion. The Facebook case I told you, it's about the cover. There is a cover picture, I guess, the big one, but you cannot make it private. You can't make it private. So that's where the person was hunted because they cannot hide these cover pictures. And of course, before I went for my interview, I used to share a lot of professional things. Like the blog I write, I used to share in my Facebook. I know friends laugh about me. You say, oh, okay, you became a scientist. You are sharing this goddamn messy things. So this is bad. So I know people laughed about me. My friend used to tease me with that. But trust me, it helps. So you can provide some, because if I wrote something in Facebook, if I have 500, 600 friends, and if 5% of them, like 3% read it, that means I was able to provide this new information to 3% of my friends. See, in the interview board, this can be also can be a very good argument that I provide and I disseminate current information to my network. So this is a hobby of me. You can term these things as your hobby. So your hobby is to let people know about some good stuff. Thank you very much. So everybody else have a great weekend. Okay, tomorrow is Sunday. Have fun. Bye. Take care. Thank you, Rob.